Hi, it's Grandma from Grandma's Footsteps again. Today I think we'll carry on making the memory book, but we're going to work on a page. On the last video I showed you how to make the front cover and the spine and your first page, and this is what we're going to be working on today, your first page. So the first thing I did, if you remember, I said we were making it the second size down. So I take the second size decorative die from here, the one with the scalloped edge, from my dies, and I will cut out a piece of coloured paper to go on there. Okay, and typical Blue Peter style, here's one I prepared earlier. Okie dokie. Now, we need to glue that on, so we'll put some glue out and away we go. Hopefully the glue will work. Yes, it does. And whether or not I'm going to glue my desk today or not, we don't know. But let's just get some glue on there and see what happens. Right, here we go. Okay, and we glue that down here to your page with a nice level border around the outside. Give it a nice smooth down. Okay. Oh, that's not actually got much of a border on that side, but I think we may have to go with that now. Oh no, will it lift? Will it? Yes, that's that bit of wriggle room that the wet glue gives us, which is great. So you just want to get it nice and smooth, nice and level. I may have to add a little bit of glue in here because I lifted it, but anywhere that's lifts like that, you can just, with your fine tip glue, you can just put a bit of glue in under there. Ooh, and it's not blowing air bubbles, like so, and smooth it down. And I hope I got some in there. The other thing that I do, if I need a piece to stay down, is I will put clothes pegs on it. Just ordinary, everyday clothes pegs like you would hang your washing out with. Unless you're like me and you're too lazy to hang your washing out and use a tumble dryer. But there you go. I'm sure everybody's got a few clothes pegs around somewhere. Now that piece was lifting up as well, so we'll just pop a clothes peg on there. Have a quick look round to make sure it's all stuck down, which I believe it is now. Give it a good rub. And there we are. That's your base for your first page. Now what I've decided to do on this page is to do a couple of pockets, but not just boring pockets. We're going to try and make them a little bit more interesting. So if I can ever get the pin back in this glue, which is what I'm fiddling about with here, just off shot. There we go. So what I've started with was I started by cutting a piece of white card, the depth I want the first pocket, and I have put a little bit of the wink of Stella around the outside, and as you can see I've scalloped the edge. Now I used a die, here it is, which is the edge die from one of my lace dies. It's the edging one, and I literally just cut the white card with that there. Okay, and then I cut a piece of coloured cut paper, something pretty, in this case a large gingham, which is slightly smaller than the outside edge one. So we'll stick that on. And okay, a lovely lot of glue, and we'll try and get that nicely lined up there. Now in this case I haven't left an outline, a border to the left hand side, because I'm going to stick another one over the top, because we're going to have a double decker pocket here. So we just stick that like so, and then I've done exactly the same with the next layer, except of course I've made it smaller. Again with the wink of Stella around the outside, just to give it that little bit of sparkle. And this time I've added some lace to the edge of the the paper, the fancy paper stock there. So let's put a bit of glue on here. The reason I've added the lace at this point is because I think there's nothing worse than being able to see the rough edges of a cut piece of lace or ribbon. So doing it this way, we can tuck it underneath and you don't have any raw edges, which is really nice. There we go. Now I've put that on there, and because we're using this as a pocket, we only want to glue 3 sides. Now you may notice that this is slightly smaller than the scalloped edge one that I cut. The reason being, I do like to put pockets and things inside the stitched line here rather than over the top and covering up the scallops. Sometimes I cover them up, but not very often. Now because this is a pocket, we are going to just glue around 3 sides. I think I mentioned I don't like using tape when we're putting on pockets because things can easily get caught up if any tape is sort of sticking out from the edge. Okay, so let's put that on there and nicely press it down, get it nice and level, that little bit of wiggle, nice smooth edges, and that's where you put your tags or whatever it is you want to put. And this one we'll do exactly the same, but we'll stick this one on the top, and oh, here we go, bit of glue there, and we'll stick this one on the top of this one and line it up the same. Okay, in this case I may come in a little bit from the side, yeah, just to make it a bit more interesting. Nicely smooth it down, press it down, especially where the lace is, because you don't want that to come loose or become detached. So now we have a page, and it has 2 pockets with a lovely scalloped edge and a piece of lace and a bit of glitter. So now we want a little bit more decoration. Now in the card pack that I've got, it's got this lovely little tag which says "It's a Girl." It's got a couple of butterflies on it, and it's a little bit sparkly. So I've taken one of the dies from the Legacy Keeper set, like this. I cut out a complete set, and I've been using them up as tags and various different things, and I discovered that that is the same shape and fits quite nicely onto one of these. So I cut one of these off and put a bit of my Wink of Stella around it, and I've got this really pretty little piece of embellishment, I would call it, an embellishment, yes. So we just put that in there, and it's literally there to make it look gorgeous. So there we go. Make sure that's nicely pushed down so it's not going to get caught up in whatever tags you put in there. Now that was from the 6x6 pad that I have, which I believe is from First Editions. Yes, it is. And I also have some 12x12. So this is the same shape tags here, but they're bigger because they come from the 12x12 pad. So I've taken the larger part of the Legacy Keeper dies, and I've glued these on, and I've stuck them down nicely, and they will fit in there like so. One there and one there. Now that does cover up a pretty bit, but only until you take the tags out to have a look. There. And also we've got a smaller pocket, so I've got this third one, which is actually landscape and not portrait. I've stuck the picture on, and that one will go in there. Okay, so that's your first page. Quite happy with that, it's all done. And yeah, there we go, lovely. I may put some more embellishments on it later on, but I tend to put embellishments on much later, probably when I've got most of the book, if not all the book, completely made, where I may put something on here, I may not, or I might put some pearls or something on it all depends on how I feel at the time. So that's that one, and I'm going to just take a pause now, and then we'll get on with the second half of page 1. Now we're going to work on the other side of that page. And one of the things I haven't mentioned yet is you always have to think ahead when you're working on pages. Because if you want flaps and flips and flops and such like, you'll want to hide the hinges. And you usually do that by hiding it underneath the cover, or the inner page, sheet that you put in, the inner page, like that. So you would hide things underneath it. Also, if you need to put magnets on, you will need to hide it. So you'll need to think about what you're going to do before you glue this piece of paper down. Okay, so now in this case, one of the things I like to do is to add a little page in between some of the big ones. And all this is the next side's down die. So I like to put them in, and it just gives a little bit of extra interest. Now, as always, I like to use red liner tape to attach the pages along the crease line here, like so. That's it. And my scissors have walked off. Okay, they're over there. That's the red liner tape. In this case, it's the same width as. All I did was cut this from the next die down, and I scored ½ centimetre on the side, and folded it over basically. So that's your little hinge there for this page. And what I will do is I will stick it right to the very edge of this, so that it will not obscure the hinges in any way or get in the way, but will just attach there. Okay, so now when I put this here, it covers up that piece of hinge that we've just attached there. Okay, so I'll now continue and add this piece of fancy paper here, decorative paper, nice bit of glue on there, and try and level it up nicely. Little bit of wiggle room because it's wet glue. Get it nice and tidy there, and smooth out along your edges. Now again, these edges are not totally sticking down, so I can put a bit of extra glue in underneath there. Just make sure the glue is coming out, and make sure the glue is coming out, which it is now. Put a little bit more glue under the edge there and on the corner there. Smooth it down, so we're wiping off the excess glue as well at the same time, and put on a clothes peg. That will hold it until it's dry. It doesn't take long to dry this glue. If anybody's interested, I use Anita's tacky glue. I find it's very, very good. It catches. It is tacky, so it catches quite quickly, but you still have a bit of wriggle room. And when it's glued, it's glued. It's brilliant, and it's not as expensive as a lot of other glues. It does dry clear, and so that's it. We'll just smooth that down nicely. I might put another clothes peg or two on there just to hold the edges down. It's only just the edges sometimes just don't, and also because I've got I'm putting them through the Gemini machine, which is got quite a lot of pressure to it, which I'm not used to. It is bending the papers just a little bit, and that's why I'm having to put a bit of extra work into the edges. But yeah, we're kind of getting the hang of it now, which is good. So that's that. Now what I decided to do on here is I decided to make an envelope. Now, there's lots of different ways of making an envelope. You can make an envelope out of a square piece of card, or, as I did, if you have one, you can use the We Are Memory Keepers envelope punch board. Okay, it's very, very useful this. It tells you for all the different sizes that you want, how big you should cut your piece of paper, at what point you should make the first punch, and then you just keep turning it round, lining up your score guide with this mark here, and then punch till you get around all four sides. And on the other side it's got a very useful corner rounder, hence the corner rounder that I've used there. Now I just made this envelope up and I've put a little magnet in there, in underneath there, and I've put one in the flap. That is why the flap has a different colour on the inside. I cut an extra piece and I've glued it on so that the magnet is sandwiched between the two pieces of paper and doesn't show, but it does close. So that's your envelope. And then I had to think, well, okay, the envelope is gorgeous, but what am I going to put in the envelope? Okay, I'm just removing the pegs here. So what am I going to put in this envelope? I can put this envelope on here, and I could leave it for the recipient to put photographs or all sorts of nice things in. But then I decided, no, I'm going to add something. So what I did was I got a piece of cardstock that fitted in the envelope, double folded in half, and I folded it in half, and then I got some ordinary copier paper which I cut to ever so slightly smaller than the white card, and folded them in half, and I glued them in. So we now have a little book. I've decorated the front with the same paper as the envelope and just used a die to put on here this little banner with the word notes in it and a touch of Wink of Stella, and that will fit nicely inside there. The envelope closes down, and all I need to do now is to just glue that onto the page. You can of course do an envelope and put it underneath a belly band, or you could do an envelope and put it in a pocket, or you could do more than one envelope and put them together if you did smaller ones. But yeah, there you go. This is what I'm doing. The envelope is going in there, fit nicely in the middle. Put a little bit of pressure on it because it's quite big. I might just take the book out while I'm trying to get the envelope stuck and straight. There we go. So get the envelope down nice and tight like that. You could of course attach a ribbon here and on the top of the flap of the envelope so you can tie it whatever way you want to do it, and then the little book just fits in there like so, and the flap comes down, and voila, there is another page of your book completed. There we go. This is the first one we worked on this side, and the things come out. I will decide whether or not I want to put holes in them and maybe a ribbon, or whether I want to put the little tabs on. I usually do that sort of thing all in one go later on. So there we go, and there's your little envelope now with your book in, and that is your first page, both sides completed. But we have got this little one. Now I must admit I haven't actually decided yet completely what I'm doing on this little page yet. I've got a little bit of a problem there with a bit of extra tape. I'll just stick that in. But yeah, I haven't completely decided, except I have chosen this to go on there. But I'm not going to stick it down, as I said, until I have decided whether I want any flips and flaps and things that are going to have to, or magnets or things that are going to have to be hidden underneath that. So I'm going to stop there now, and come back and join me again when I am going to put in another page, and we'll finish this little one and work on the next page. So bye for now, take it easy, and don't forget to like, comment and subscribe.